Yesterday, news broke that Alabama is set to add in another former head coach into the coaching staff with Ron Cooper. And I think that this is a phenomenal hire, and I can't wait to talk about it. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all. So be sure to hop down to the comments and give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you excited about the acquisition of Ron Cooper? And let me know what you're thinking on that. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification. That way you don't miss any of my uploads because I do constant college football content. Player reviews, film analysis, talk style videos like this, and I'm on my push to 5,000 subscribers, and I'd love to have you along for the journey. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to like and comment down below because that stuff really does go a long ways in helping content creators like myself get picked up by the algorithm. But with all that being said, let's talk Ron Cooper. And one of the first reasons, I already said it, but I am so high on this hire, is it is always great to be able to add in a guy who has head coaching experience into the mix. It just is someone that has been able to observe a program from an entirely different mindset, and so they look at things a bit differently. And especially when you take a guy like Ron Cooper, who has a ton of experience at a ton of different levels of football, was a head coach at Louisville, was LSU's DB coach for a while, was the DB coach for Tampa Bay. He was at Arkansas. He was at A&M. This is a guy that has a very deep resume, and I really like when you start picking apart his resume. Specifically, when we pick apart his resume while he was at LSU, and I really want to take a deep dive into that. Because when he was at LSU, specifically the 2011 season, LSU probably had the best secondary in the nation. They had Tyrann Mathieu and Morris Claiborne, and not only that, he was there in coaching Patrick Peterson. He has had a hand in a lot of success at LSU, and I'm not saying he is the only reason for that, right? Patrick Peterson is a freak. Patrick Peterson was going to be Patrick Peterson regardless, but it is nice to know that this was an individual that was a part of that success, who was a coach in that success, because the success lasted longer than Patrick Peterson. And that's my biggest point here, is that Ron Cooper came in there and that success just lasted a long time, and it gave LSU the moniker of DBU, and Ron Cooper, I'm not saying he's entirely responsible for that. That is not my claim here. My claim is, though, that he is partially responsible for it. How much part we want to assign to that, we can disagree there. But nonetheless, he was the DB coach when you had two defensive backs win DB awards at the end of the year in Morris Claiborne and Tyrann Mathieu. He was the DB coach when Patrick Peterson won a defensive back award as well. So this is a man who, when he was at LSU, had very proud defenses. And it really made me wonder what his tenures looked like at other institutions. So I checked his tenure at South Carolina. And when he was at South Carolina, they had the #1 passing defense in the nation while he was the DB coach there. So this is an individual who has had success wherever he has gone as it relates to the defensive backfield, whether that be coaching talent or establishing a program as a really proud DB institution. Ron Cooper has a ton of experience I really like. And like I said, he also was a coach in the NFL at Tampa Bay. And if you frequent this channel, you'll know how high I am on that. You'll know how high I am on guys like Doug Marrone on the trail after somebody, because he gets to look at that individual and say, not only do I know what it takes to be successful for you in college, I know how to get you into the NFL, and I know how in the NFL you're coached. That's a big selling point because kids want to get to the NFL, and having an individual that has a deep understanding of not only the college realm, but also the ins and outs and the functionality of the NFL realm as well is big. And part of the reason why I love this so much is because we just talked about yesterday how Alabama target Sam McCall ended up going to Florida State. Well, when Alabama hires a defensive analyst or whatever position Ron Cooper is set to take, whenever he gets hired there, whether or not he can do any recruiting or will do any recruiting, the fact that in the pitch they get to say to a Denver Harris, to a Kamari Wilson, to a Keon Saab, hey, we just got Ron Cooper. You remember that vaunted LSU secondary that really gave them the DBU moniker? Patrick Peterson, Tyrann Mathieu, Morris Claiborne. Yeah, he was a part of that. He was the DB coach at the time. That's a big selling point, especially when you look at a Denver Harris who already had LSU in his top 4. And I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that Ron Cooper is responsible for Denver Harris having LSU in his top 4. That's not my claim here. But once again, my claim is that LSU has become such a hot ground for defensive backs because when Ron Cooper was there, they really established themselves as maybe the premier institution for defensive backs. Now, there are other great DBUs, right? Bama has a proud lineage of defensive backs. Ohio State has a proud lineage of defensive backs. But LSU, nonetheless, is in the conversation, and I think we would be being disingenuous if we just said, no, they aren't a part of that argument. You know, some programs can debate about their status amongst the University X, right? Like wide receiver U, running back U. There are universities who can debate it, and then universities who can't, and the simple truth is LSU is a university who can enter their name into that debate. No matter where you fall on that debate, you have to kind of admit that LSU can enter their name into that hat, and being able to say that is a big selling point to a Denver Harris that, hey, we're LSU, we've been DBU. But now Alabama can look at Denver Harris and say, not only do we send guys into the NFL, not only are we going to have Nick Saban personally recruiting you, not only do you carry over your recruiter who is recruiting you at the University of Texas, but now you remember the guy who kind of helped kick off the DBU moniker and Ron Cooper, the guy who was in the defensive backfield coaching while LSU had guys such as Patrick Peterson, Morris Claiborne, Tyrann Mathieu. Yeah, that guy, he's a member of the Alabama Crimson Tide staff now. That is a great selling point to the 5-star corners and safeties and even the 4-star blue chips that Alabama is going to be pursuing, but specifically for like a Denver Harris, this really excites me for his process because I think this is an addition that can absolutely pay dividends and pay dividends quickly. This is something I cannot wait to see more about. I can't wait to see what other people are thinking about this because this is something that really, really excites me and I really wanted to talk about it, but I can't wait to hear what y'all are thinking. What do you think about Ron Cooper? And do you think, like me, that this will lead to some excitement among some DBs? And once again, everybody, I want to say this one more time. I am in no way saying Ron Cooper is responsible for LSU being able to be inserted into the argument of DBU because their success lasted longer than Ron Cooper, right? Ron Cooper left there and LSU was still having defensive back success. Nonetheless, wherever Ron Cooper has gone, they've had defensive back success. So you can't say that he had absolutely nothing to do with it. Whether or not it was a small piece, he was still a great coach for them at the time when they had maybe the best secondary in college football with some of the best secondary players in college football. And he coached that. And so I'm excited about that. But I want to hear what y'all are thinking. That's it. Be sure to subscribe and like. I'll see you on the next one.